Welcome back. Yo me llamo Miguel. ¿Me recuerdas? Voy a hablarles sobre el VIH, SIDA, enfermedades transmitidas sexualmente y la hepatitis. Hey, that's me again, Michael. I'm going to still talk a little bit about HIV and STDs and hepatitis. I want to remind you that if you need to be in contact with me at the Western North Carolina AIDS Project, you can certainly contact me by email or this phone number, 252-7489. I don't even know my own number. Extension 311, but you see it there. I'm looking at it backwards. So this portion, we thought we'd just kind of review some of the things that we've talked about. We have talked about HIV and STDs and hepatitis in a general way. We talked about some of the websites that might be of interest to you, but I just wanted to add a few things that could also be resources for you. You might think it's silly that I bring in this picture of me in the 4th grade, but a friend of mine is silly and he sent that to me. I'm just sharing that with you. That's what I used to look like. Big hair and big old buck teeth and all that. So now I'm grayed out and wrinkled and I'm losing my hair. So I talked about that I worked at the Western North Carolina AIDS Project. We serve the 18-county region of the state. We do case management for people. We do condom distribution, needle exchange, HIV and hepatitis C testing. We do advocacy. Volunteer services are also needed. So if you ever want to volunteer for a local agency, your local AIDS service provider could probably use your help. There are oftentimes food boxes that need to be delivered to either older folks, so it might be a Manna food bank or something like that where you live. It may be that you have Meals on Wheels. There's just so many things to do in our community. So find a way to give back. Philanthropy is not just about dollars. Sometimes it is about giving of your time and your energy and your expertise. So some of the things that I thought I would share with you might be some resources. For those of you who are parents or guardians, these 2 books are great. So Boys and Sex and Girls and Sex by Peggy Orenstein. Girls and Sex and Boys and Sex are a must-read for all of our young people, but I think we as parents should do the same, to be able to have the conversation afterwards with all the information that Peggy Orenstein puts in these books. She first started with Girls and Sex, and she interviewed all these young women, kind of high school to college-age women, and asked about their bodies and what they knew about their bodies and their body parts and relationships and sex and that sort of thing. And then she took all that data and compared it to the Netherlands, how they start very early teaching our children about their bodies, that they have a little bit of differences, but they're still humans, and relationships, and all the way up through, adolescence. And they have found that by being open, by talking about this, by talking sex ed comprehensively, that they've had fewer STDs, fewer HIV infections, fewer sexual assaults, fewer divorces, all these kind of healthier things about our society that we could potentially have here if we talked a little bit more openly, perhaps, about the things that are really natural, that are parts of our bodies. We talked earlier in one of these other groups about naming the body parts. This is not a ooh and a cuckoo and a ding dong and a bing bong or whatever else you've ever heard it called. These are breasts and a penis and a vagina and a rectum and an anus and a nose and an ear and an elbow. So Peggy Orenstein did a very good job with these books. The Boys and Sex came a couple of years later. There's interviews with young men in high school and college and what they say and what they do, and are they part of a fraternity, and how do they understand consent. So this whole concept, you might have seen there's a movie out there, I think it's called The Hunting Grounds, is that right? I should know the name, but I'm forgetting it. I think it's called The Hunting Grounds. And it talks about sexual assaults on college university campuses, and a number of them in North Carolina. Consent, you cannot get somebody's legal consent if they're using alcohol and drugs, first of all. And the state and many states are now looking for a yes consent. Well, she didn't say no. He didn't say no. I just took advantage of them because they were lying there. They didn't say no. They're looking for yes consent. Is it okay if I touch your hand? Did I hear you say yes? Okay. Is it okay if I kiss your neck? Yes? Okay. Is it okay if I take my shirt off in front of you? Yes? If I'm not getting a yes consent, then I'm not really getting consent. And this whole concept that in this hunting grounds was that no, how did they put it? No means yes, and yes means anal. That's what you hear these guys laughing about. That no means yes, When I'm drinking or I'm, kind of inebriated, I'm not able to, no, stop, don't, no. No means yes. And if I said yes, that means anal. That's what they think. And so this book, Boys and Sex, talks about some of those things, that we really need to address sex and consent with young men, to understand relationships, that you check in with your partner, be he a male or be she a female, either one, both, whatever. That's it doesn't matter. To talk to your partner, these intimate relationship, violence relationships with your intimate partners, that kind of stuff, it's an issue. And people are dealing with that too. Sometimes they don't know how to get out of those and what are the resources in our communities to help people with domestic violence and sexual assault. So those kinds of agencies we want to know about. Talking to your case managers and your social workers about that can be very, very helpful. Calling the United Way 211 and just asking, where can I get some resources? Slipping it to your neighbor, slipping it to your daughter or your son that may be in a relationship that by your intuition is unhealthy, to let people know. Anyway, these are really good books. I would highly encourage you to read them. I also brought a couple of fun t-shirts from over the years. ACT UP is the AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power. You might want to look up the movie And the Band Played On. It is a book, but also a movie about the early HIV and AIDS epidemic. So ACT UP was one of the advocacy groups that got out there and really talked to the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, about medications and how the government needed to address this, how the pandemic became pandemic because it got so out of control instead of talking about it. To also reduce phobias. So reducing biphobia, homophobia, transphobia, heterophobia, this is in Spanish, stop the phobias out there. We are all human beings sharing the space and place called Earth. I don't have to love you, you don't have to love me, but can't we just get along a little bit? Be nice to sex workers. I know people like, what? Be nice to sex workers? What's that all about? Well, it's about helping individual prostitutes survive, an agency that is working with sex workers. Come on now, let's get real. There are people who are sex workers. Some have used places online, social media outlets, whether it's Grindr or Farmers for Farmers, only, or Christian Mingle. I don't care what it is. People want sex, so they go to many of these social media sites. And there are some laws, the FOSTA and the SOSTA laws have actually broken down the ability for sex workers to protect themselves, where they had like that, what was called the back door, or it was a website. It's made it very hard for public sex workers to be safer. It's put many of them back out on the streets where sometimes predators are able to abuse them and to use them where they had more power online by themselves. So sex workers are a part of our communities and they don't need to be discriminated against. They don't need to be stigmatized. I'm not saying it's the best job in the world, but some people are involved in it, and until they can decide whatever else they want to do, they want to go and be a dental hygienist, or they want to be a lawyer, they want to be a trash collector, whatever your career may lead you to be, there are public sex workers that deserve the dignity of being cared for and having access to our communities. Condomize is certainly important. This came from the AIDS 2012 conference. Condomize. Everybody, try a condom on. So we should talk a little bit about condoms. They come in colors, flavors, styles, and sizes. You didn't know that? Colors, flavors, styles, and sizes. Some people use them, some people don't. Some people will, some people won't. I'm known as the rubber man a lot of times because we put out 190,000 condoms, generally speaking. Again, never enough as I see it. The 10 million people in the state of North Carolina, do they send one to each of us every year, every month? Do we get a weekly supply? I don't know. You're lucky if you don't have to use them, or maybe you've got a partner that you know is monogamous, so monogamy is very important in all of this. Abstinence obviously is very important. If you can abstain, a lot of us really can. We might be in a dry spell right now. Oh, I know it like you do. But, eventually I hope to get a little some. When I'm going to have some, am I going to be prepared? Will I have some condoms? I like to have a variety of them. And in fact, I have an entire bag full right here. But I'm sharing these. So what I usually have with my demonstrators here is to show that they can come in a different flavors and styles. And so I've got condoms in grape, strawberry, chocolate, banana. I even have a minty one to leave your breath minty fresh. They can come in different colors. It may be that you want to make it look bruised and beat up. That's fine. Purple and blue, you can use those. We have them in black for the formal tuxedo if you'd like to use that. And even, let's see here, I think I can make it look like Christmas. How about that? Green and blue. You want to make them jewelry? Some people do. They take them like that or make pins and buttons out of them. Question on the floor.
So I have a question with you doing that. Sometimes I've heard my clients say, well, I use 2 condoms because that's double the protection. Are they getting double protection with 2 condoms?
Don't put 2 condoms on. 1 condom only is all you need. There's no need to put 2 condoms on. It may cause a friction. One might slip off anyway. You could tear it. Really, 1 condom used correctly and consistently will work. So the concept is to have the condoms, to maybe not be as high or drunk, to kind of be in your mind so you kind of know what's going on. A little bit of light, maybe not this much light, but a little bit of light that you can check in and see is the condom on. Pull your penis out every once in a while, see is the condom still there. Was there any breakage? Are you having really rougher sex? Some people do and some people don't. You may want to pull the condom out periodically, the whole penis, and see, is the condom intact? I mean, I'm being real with you about this. Ladies or guys, if you have a partner who's penetrating you, put your hand down there on that penis and just feel that condom is still on there and pull it right on back down the shaft. I know that sometimes they'll slip up a little bit, but having you know, that kind of hold on it once in a while. Hold on, stop, just a second, back up. You know, wait a second, I need. You know, say, hey, I have the jurisdiction over my body to say stop. And the law will back me up on stopping. Even in the middle of having sex, I can say, nope, I'm done. I'm over it. I don't want to. No, you started this. You got to have sex with me and finish me off. No, I don't. You're not getting it. Now you're really making me angry. It's that sort of thing. So we have the law behind us here in North Carolina to stand behind that as well. 2 condoms, not necessary. 1 condom used correctly and consistently, maybe with a little bit of lube on it, would be much more helpful. I will use a yellow condom once in a while, but I don't like it in a pinch because it makes it look jaundiced, but I'll use it. Sometimes people have an allergic reaction to latex, so there are non-latex condoms, polyurethane, polyisoprene condoms. They are much more expensive. They're as much as 3 times more expensive than just a general latex condom, but polyurethane, polyisoprene can be helpful if you or your partner has an allergic reaction to condoms. They do come in extra large. A lot of guys tell me, man, I need the gold pack. I need the grandes because I got to have the extra large. I'm like, yeah, whatever, man. Sorry. You know, God didn't give me that when he was giving out gifts or whatever, but I ain't never had no complaints. So even if the small guy wants the extra large condom, give it to him. That to me is harm reduction. He'll find out it's way too much condom for him. He'll come back and get the regular ones, but let him try it on. Condoms, they should be pillowy. They should have a little pillow of air in them. If they don't, it's likely they've been damaged. Guys, if we're putting condoms in our wallets where we think we're really cool, walking around sitting on it for days and weeks and months at a time, hoping to ever get that offer, and you finally get that offer and you pull out a raggedy ass condom, she won't be around about no raggedy old condom. You need to keep that out of your wallet. You can take it to the bar tonight or to the club or to a party, birthday or something like that. You might put it in your wallet, but when you didn't get any tonight, take it back out and put it in your bedside stand. Put it in your hutch at your dining room and your kitchen counter, back in the little dish in the bathroom where the kids can come and get them so that you're the cool mom, the cool neighbor where we get our condoms from, that sort of thing. Question on the floor.
Is it damaging to condoms to be like in the dash in the car in extreme heat, stuff like that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Should a condom be in your glove compartment? Absolutely not. Tonight, you go out? Yeah, sure. You didn't get any? Take it back out. So where there's extreme heat or extreme cold, it's not a good idea. For ladies, I'm all about empowered women. You know, all about your rights, about your jurisdiction, your education, your financial stability, your independence. I'm all about it. I think you should also have condoms in your possession as well. Just because a woman is walking around with a condom doesn't make her any kind of name calling somebody. You know, she's an empowered woman. I'm like, yes ma'am, you get to make the choice, whatever you want. Your position, my desire, you know. Name it, call it, you're in the charge here. Condoms all have this pillow of air, but they also have an expiration date on them. Another reason to look in the light. If I keep this in a cool, dry place, I can keep this until 2025 and to decide whether or not you are the right person for me. Don't be trying to coerce me. Don't be trying to get me high. Don't be trying to abuse me. Again, if you didn't get my yes consent, then you have illegally done something to me that can really be a charge later on. So condoms, we like to pull them out and make sure we're not using anything sharp to open them up, but you can make it fun. You can have your partner put the condom on you. You want to figure out which way it's going to unravel, so unravel it a little bit. If you have not gotten used to condoms, this is a good reason to maybe get some from your health department, from your AIDS service agency, from your counselor, and play with them a little bit. I like to take these to Thanksgiving and have a race with my sisters and sisters-in-law to see who can put the condom on the cucumber faster. My mother's always very angry about that. That is supposed to go in our salad. And I said, well, we're just playing until the turkey's done. And anyway, I give them a chance to win sometimes. The reservoir needs to be pinched when you're putting it on, little Freddie or whatever you might call him. You want to pinch the tip, do you see? So you pinch the tip, your partner can do this too, and roll it all the way down the shaft so there's no air in that reservoir. So then it's being used, and all of a sudden 3 minutes later, he'll do something like that and start shaking and trembling, and you'll know that the deed is done. You'll ask him to pull his penis out of you, whoever your partner is, and he'll want to hold on to that condom as he's pulling it out of your vagina, your mouth, or your anus. And I always have a tough time getting the condom off because this is not the nature of the penis, but immediately after ejaculation it will become more flaccid. The blood tends to just diminish. And so then you've got semen in here. Remember, we call it cum, semen, and baby gravy or whatever. But I like to just tie a knot in the condom itself so that when I'm tying it, that the dog and the cat that's in the house is not going to get into it, it's not going to spill out. I can toss it in the trash with a paper napkin, something like that. You just want to toss it away. If you are in a hotel room, do not leave these on the hotel floor, do not leave these on the bed or on the nightstand. The housekeepers hate that. It is so disrespectful. And don't flush them down the toilet. You're going to have the plumber coming over. Besides not flushing needles down the toilet, don't flush condoms down the toilet. All of a sudden it's going to back up or it's going to clog your septic tank, and they're going to have to come and clean all that stuff out. And can imagine when the plumber gets there and is like, I see what's going on in this house. So just toss it in your trash can nice and neatly. You can, should I, put the condom on with your mouth to make it kind of fun and exciting. So if you're going to do that, they are flavored, remember that? So you would put the condom in your mouth. Don't want to necessarily put it, sometimes people call it cheeking, like if you're a public sex worker, sometimes you keep a condom in your mouth and you hope to put the condom on his penis when he doesn't know it. Most of us aren't going to know it anyway. We're like, oh my God, we're getting some. You know, we're not thinking about anything else. And it goes all the way down. So you can do that. And if it's flavored, it'll flavor up your mouth. If it's minty flavor, or take out the lasagna flavor or whatever else you had. If you were a smart chemist, you would make the natural flavor of a penis, like a hot sweaty soldier or a hot cop or a man in a suit or something like that. But nobody's ever been able to. So latex is latex, and there are some flavors. You can find some flavored lube, again, to maybe make that exciting. If you have that little cold sore, you just don't want the ejaculate in your mouth, you just want to role play. And again, if you take it all the way to ejaculation, make sure that you are tying the knot in your condom. I'm not going to leave these all over the floor here because they're going to wonder what the hell we've been doing down here. They used to come in camouflage so you wouldn't see them coming. There is something called, used to be called a female condom. We call it FC2 now, so female condom, second generation. It's not latex. One-time use condom. They're very expensive to find them like in a sex store now. You hardly ever find them because they are so expensive. South Africa gave out something like 98,000 of them to a population of 55 million people, mostly women, to protect them against HIV and other STDs. They're made of nitrile or sometimes polyisoprene. Nitrile is what surgical gloves are oftentimes made of. This ring can come out, so you could put that on a penis or on a sex toy itself. This ring is then used to insert in the vagina or the rectum. They actually say anal sex, but it's the second ring you want to know about. So if you have a sex partner and you haven't talked about using the insertive condom, and you come in and you're like, hey, I'm ready, and they're like, what the heck is that sticking out of you? Hey, it's my female condom, my insertive condom. I forgot to tell you about it, that sort of thing. So you want to have a conversation. This is an adult subject matter we're talking about. If you're having sex with somebody else, you need to be having a conversation, as I think about it. If I'm having sex by myself, masturbating, my hand on my own body, great, enjoy your own body. What you never want to use is Noxema. Never use Noxema on your body parts, not your penis or not your vagina. I can only tell you that because I learned it when I was 12. Never use Noxema. Oh my God, that burns. Use a water-based lube. So if you have children and you want to encourage them to explore their own bodies and understand that it's safe, that masturbation is not going to put hair on your palms or blind you. I can see you right now. I can see right through you. Remember Romper Room that Mrs. A.M. used to say, I see Jenny and Billy and Bobby. I see you. Use a water-based lube. Anything like water-based is anything that's not petroleum-based. So no Vaseline, no baby oil, no hand lotion, no coconut oil, corn oil. All those kinds of things might be fun on your own, but not if you're going to be using any kind of latex. So if somebody that you are with is your partner and they're giving you a nice body massage and doing your feet and everything like that, and then it's all of a sudden time to use a condom, you do not want to use any kind of petroleum-based product with a condom. If you don't believe me, take a condom, blow it up like a balloon, rub some Vaseline or baby oil on it, it'll pop in about 3 minutes. Water-based, ID Glide, Astro Glide, Walmart brand, Eckerd brand, water-based is what you're looking for. Silicone-based also works for latex condoms, and that's fine. This is called a dental dam. We use it to isolate an area in the mouth when we're having oral surgery, but for this purpose, we use it as a barrier from my mouth to contact with the vagina, or my mouth with contact to the anus. Some people have their mouth on people's vaginas, some people don't. Some people put their mouth on people's butts, some people don't. This is a barrier that can be used if you don't have a dental dam. Most of us probably don't. You can certainly take a condom and with a scissors cut on one side of it like that, it'll unravel about the same size. If you have some rubber gloves at home, you can cut around the fingers and open that up. If you're in prison or jail and have a lunch baggie, you can cut those around and have a baggie. If you've got none of that, we all have some saran wrap in the kitchen. Go in there and get you about 5 feet and wrap that thing up. It's a great barrier. Use some water-based lube on the skin side, helps to move things along. And if it's a flavored condom, you'll certainly understand the benefit of the flavor versus the latex itself. A couple of other things I'd like to just kind of share with you. Some of the worst case scenario pictures. If you looked up STD images of the vagina and the penis, there's syphilis and condylomata. There's all sorts of, these are the worst case scenario pictures. I don't recommend them to scare our children, but to inform our children. So instead of giving them a book and say, you're going to look like that if your penis comes out of your pants, or if you ever let anybody touch you. Don't scare your children, teach them well. This is what's called syphilis. This is called herpes. This is called condylomata, and these are genital warts. And I'm showing these to you because this can be what could occur if you don't know your status, if you let an infection go, if something changes about your body and you're not going to see it. In North Carolina, I can't speak to all states or all countries, but in North Carolina, if you are 12 years of age or older, you can consent on your own to go to the health department and be tested and treated for an STD. That's important to know because as our children, some of our children, we did read the statistics about who's got chlamydia and who's getting gonorrhea and the younger people under 24 years of age. If you're that young and having sex, not understanding all of it, hoping that it's consensual, and get exposed to an STD, afraid to talk to mommy and daddy because they told you never to do this, and if you do, you're going to this and that kind of trouble, you at least have the empowerment to go to the health department and be tested and treated for the STDs. That's important for our children to know. There is a group in Asheville called Youth Outright. They're an advocacy group. They like allies, but they mostly are making a space available, a safe space available for LGBTQ and plus, as they call them, young people up to the age of about 20. They have different groups that meet, but they really start at that 12, 13, 14 years of age. There are parents that come and participate in activities that they're involved in. They're doing great work advocating in our communities and letting people know that they still are human beings. Speaking of LGBT things, there are several things that might be of interest to you, including the story Together Alone by a guy named Michael Hobbes, Hobbes. This is the epidemic of gay loneliness. So Together Alone you can find online. It's very colorful. It's got some sadness to the story, that people are having struggles. And is it that you want to either talk to your counselor, or is it that you as a counselor are being talked to by a guest, a patient, a client, about some of the LGBT issues that are in your life? HIV, as stigmatizing as it is still highly prevalent among men who have sex with men. 69% of HIV cases, new case reports in this country, are among men who have sex with men, whether they identify as gay or bisexual or not. Sometimes the core, deep root of what has gone on in our bodies, that I was raped by my minister, I was raped by my brother, I was raped by my uncle or my dad, or I was made to do this. I mean, I don't know how many people I've talked to, older men now in their 50s and 60s and 70s, and said they were made to do things for so many years in their youth that led them to some of the alcohol and drug use, some of the behavioral things that they've done and put themselves through, and the damage that they feel, and the stigma and the PTSD and all that. These are those adverse childhood events that have happened. This is a really poignant story. This Together Alone talks a lot about that. There are some other things that you might find of interest, including this Lust, Men, and Meth, A Gay Men's Guide to Sex and Recovery by David Fawcett. Now, whether you're gay or not, it's a great read about methamphetamine use, the concept of what you're seeing out in the woods, and you see somebody looking in, and you're hearing voices, and somebody on your rooftop, and they're coming after you and calling the police, and all these kinds of things that seem to appear among people who are on long days of meth use. This book talks a lot about some of those things. I just found it a fascinating read. David Fawcett has done a lot of work around meth use over the years. It is pertinent not just to gay men, but to others who would be using that. This story is Finding Hope in Crystal City, an HBO special, Finding Hope in Crystal City, about a number of men who were using methamphetamine, oftentimes by injection, and then got infected with HIV, their lives, their stories, their struggles. It just is. The realities are what they are in the world. And fascinating, these are the kind of the industry magazines. So we have PLUS, a couple of different images of it. Positively Aware is more scientific, but has lots of good stories in it. And POS magazine stands for POS, being positive. In each of these, you'll find information about HIV, sexually transmitted infections, hepatitis, the new clinical data, people who are living with infections all these years. And it seems to me that there is a correlation to alcohol and drug use and the exposure to STDs and HIV infections. And so many of these people come to terms with their lives after being diagnosed with HIV. There is a certain surge happening right now of hepatitis C infections in our communities. HIV is slightly on the rise among people who don't have access to clean, sterile injection equipment. 33% historically of all HIV infections were related to the needle. It has gotten down to about 8 or 9% over the years, and now we're starting to see a 1 or 2% increase in HIV among people who don't have access to needles to protect themselves against HIV, viral hepatitis, endocarditis, and other bloodborne infections. I think we talked about earlier that there are some resources. LGBT Health Survey. This was by the Western North Carolina Community Health Services and the Campaign for Southern Equality. If you are looking for other resources, North Carolina Drug User Health Resource Guide by Region has lots of really good information in it as well, whether you are a counselor, a provider, or a consumer of the information and services. And this is something that's a little bit controversial, bringing safer consumption spaces to the United States. Around the world, safer consumption spaces are where people end up having to bring their own drugs in at this point, but are able to use their drugs in a safe environment with nursing staff there to provide care in case there's an overdose. They can administer Narcan, oxygen, they can call an ambulance if necessary, but around the world they've been able to reduce overdoses. They've been able to reduce needle litter in our streets, been able to reduce people, defecating and urinating in doorsteps in bigger cities, and where core cities have seen like that area that everybody knows is that one area, they've been able to reduce harm to that area and then to the person who might be using the services at these consumption spaces. The next step is then to go see the counselor who sits next door if you'd like a treatment on demand. There's housing, there's food resources, money, bills, all that kind of stuff, social work. And oftentimes they have food resources so that people can eat lunch, to be nourished. A lot of times people who are out in the world don't have an opportunity to access or not thinking about, not reminded to drink some water, to have a Gatorade, to get a little bit of a nourishment there to kind of keep the body going. And so a lot of services like that are happening in our communities. The very last thing I'd like to say, and then unless there are some other questions and things that we could talk about, probably talk about several more hours worth of information, but is that I hope that you know that your voices count and that your votes count. In North Carolina, there are only 4 qualifications in order to register to vote. I'm a true believer that my vote counts and that my voice can be heard. It doesn't always change everything, but think about this. If all of us in this state decided not to vote, then who gets in gets to make all of those decisions. If we are participating, then we can start to get the people in that we want to do the things that we might need to change and make laws better for ourselves. So in North Carolina, here are the 4. First, you must register, or may register rather, in the county in which you reside. Whether it's Burke County, Catawba County, Buncombe County, or Forsyth or Robeson County, that's where you register to vote. You must be a U.S. citizen by birth or naturalization. I always say, I'm damn sure glad I was born here. I've seen the test you have to take to become a U.S. citizen, and I'm not sure I could do so. But every year, people learn English. They pledge allegiance to the flag. On July 4th, the United States Vice President will induct new citizens, naturalized citizens, to this country. 3, you must be at least 18 years of age by general election day. In order to vote, you must be at least 18 years of age. That's pretty clear. But here's the kicker. If convicted of a felony, you may register to vote only after you've completed your sentence, including probation or parole. And once you've done that, North Carolina automatically restores your citizenship rights, including your right to vote. No special document is needed. That's North Carolina General Statutes 13-1 and 13-2. If you yourself are an ex-felon, done your time, if you're working with people, know people who've done felony time, thought they could never vote again, now you are educated enough to know that you can. When you go to the DMV office, what bothers me is that you see a sign in there that says, register to vote, right here. Here are the qualifications. And it's the first 3. It never has put the 4th one on there. And so Nerdy Mike, I had to write to the governor. I've been on the governor twice now in the last 2 years. Hey, governor, you put this sign up in a state office that says there are only 3 qualifications to register to vote. And indeed, there are 4. You are discriminating against a big population of people who now could really vote, make their voices heard, make their votes count. No, you cannot get your firearms back. I know a lot of people ask me that, but you can get a passport. You can travel. You could run for office, change the laws. So if you want your firing arms back, maybe you get the laws changed. I can't say for what to vote or for whom to vote. I can say that your vote counts. Your voice needs to be heard, and I encourage you to explore that. I don't know what else we've missed today. Anything else that you all can think about that we've missed? There is this myth about giving yourself hepatitis C. I guess I should briefly just say that. You do not give yourself hepatitis C. You can cause hepatitis if you use a used needle and introduce either bacteria. My grandmother, when she uses it for insulin, puts bacteria under her skin, and so she gets an abscess there. If you're putting a used needle back into your arm directly, all of that bacteria or fungus can go through your heart and to your liver and can cause hepatitis. But if you don't have hepatitis C, by using your own needle with bacteria on it is not going to give you hepatitis C, just to be clear about that. I think we've talked about a lot of things. I encourage you to explore what you need to explore with your coworkers, your caseworkers, your social workers, your medical providers, to let us know what we can serve, how we can serve you. And I thank you so very much for your attention. Take care.